The Daily Wire is learning a lesson about female nature right now. Now, as we've talked about on this channel, female nature is just kind of evil. Now, for whatever reason, we really tend to only say what is popular, and we will take money from people just to turn on them. This can be our ex-husbands, this can be our boyfriends, and now the Daily Wire is learning. So, for those of you that don't know, the Daily Wire is a conservative media organization headed by Ben Shapiro. And the Daily Wire has always been pro-Israel. Obviously, Ben Shapiro is Jewish, so he is going to be on the pro-Israel side. Now, about 10 years ago, they were really the only name in conservative media. They owned all of the big YouTubers, and there weren't really any other alternatives other than Daily Wire, I guess, and Turning Point. And both of these places are super pro-Israel. Now, at the time, there was a guy who had a difference of opinion on the Israel-Palestine situation. Now, I'm not an expert in that, but my point is not necessarily about that issue. Now, this kid, this young college kid, comes out and says he has a different opinion than the mainstream media at the time. And he really gets shit on by the entire media. And what they did to his career at the time would seem like a death sentence to anybody. I mean, if the two biggest organizations in media are banning you from all their events, blacklisting you behind the scenes, all your friends are kicking you out, it kind of seems like it would be a death sentence. And being in media, as someone that didn't really have the connections into these industries, I know how much more difficult it is when you don't have that network. It is so much harder. Now, this college kid, against all odds, I guess he moves home and starts a YouTube show, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now he has this army of supporters. I think they had no idea what they started when they banned him from this event. Now he's one of the biggest shows in all of conservative media, and some would even say that he is bigger than the people that banned him to begin with. Now, I come into this picture, I had no idea about any of this, but I had on this guy, Nick F., that got banned from all of these events 2 years ago. And when I had him on, all of these people that I knew that weren't necessarily with those organizations, but in media, a lot of them warned me not to have him on. It really affected my personal life. And I really believed in free speech at the time, so I didn't really understand why people were so weird about him. And everyone said he was super dramatic, he was like this, he was that. And when I had him on, honestly, I thought his takes were going to be a lot more unreasonable than they were. I mean, I'm not saying I agreed with everything, but I at least understood why he thought how he thought. You know, when you kind of talk to people, there's some people you can just tell have not thought through their opinions. They can't really say, I think this because of X, Y, and Z. And he really, all of his ideas were flushed out. Some I agreed with, some I didn't, but at least I knew where he was coming from. Now, this was kind of a suicide to my career at the time. It's a long story, but this cost me a lot of money. I don't regret it. It was actually one of my favorite interviews. I think it's still on Rumble. But at the time, it was just amazing to me that all these people kind of sold themselves as free speech, but I was the only one willing to have him on at the time. And everybody that had this guy on, really, it was a death sentence to their channel. It was Sneeko, Myron. Everybody was demonetized. It kind of cooked. And it was funny for me because I don't really follow foreign policy. Now, let's talk about Brett Cooper and Candace Owens. Now, Brett Cooper and Candace Owens are women. And although we are anti-feminist on paper women, all of us represent feminism in some way because none of us would be in these positions without feminism. Now, remember, Brett Cooper and Candace Owens are employed by men. So knowing that, we know that they took 2 spots at the Daily Wire that could have been given to men. Now, a lot of times women talk about, a lot of times us as women, we accept opportunities that really are kind of DEI hires. They both were in a way. It wasn't that either of them was necessarily smart or qualified. They just fit a minority box, a woman with conservative ideas, a black woman with conservative ideas. So Because they fit that box, now they're hired, right? Now, the challenge you get with women is a lot of times when we get fame and clout, we start to think that we actually are that awesome. The internet is just willing and waiting and ready to tell us we're amazing and so smart and awesome. And you get women in these jobs that they're really not qualified for, right? So, I mean, they're really not, like, an average man is probably going to think through foreign policy better than any woman. Sorry, it just is what it is. Men can do things that we just as women cannot do. Now, the Daily Wire is kind of known for being super simps. These are a lot of blue-pilled men. Now, blue-pilled men are men that do not understand and recognize female nature. For example, Ben Shapiro, when he was trying to criticize Nick F., he brought up a clip of Nick F. saying that women want to be great. Now, the guys that have gotten laid a lot, they know what this means. They know, they have an idea of what this means, but the men that have never gotten genuine desire from a woman, or in his case had to, beg his wife to marry him, they've never really seen the raw animalistic side of women, so they don't think it exists. Now, this is important. It seems unrelated, but it is important, because when they hire women, they don't take the precautions that men that understand female nature do. So Ben Shapiro kind of makes these women. Both of them are funded by Israel, either directly or indirectly, and they accept the paycheck. And conveniently, when they accept the paycheck, they're pro-Israel, as women are. We're kind of like shapeshifters, right? So basically, the Israel side makes these women famous, hires these women, gives them huge platforms, and now both of them are coming out against Israel. Now that it's popular, women, we always tend to do things when it's popular. We're not really ones to go against the grain. It's kind of our nature. That would have gotten us killed historically. Women aren't these brave, like, creatures willing to die for their belief. We're just not. We're not built that way. Now, they basically take money from these people. Then once they're done, once they have the clout and they can be famous on their own, they leave the Daily Wire and then start speaking out against Israel. Now, this is interesting because I think a lot of men can relate. A lot of men built up women. They, helped them with their credit. They might have paid off their student debt, got them in a certain social circle just for the women to say, you know what, I'm going to go bang the next guy. And that's kind of what they're doing in a way. They're saying, ooh, these ideas aren't making me money anymore. Let's go to the next ideas. Now, again, if the Daily Wire had any view of female nature, I think they'd stop hiring women. But instead, they replaced them with 2 more women. Now, this is especially interesting. I'm kind of agnostic on the whole thing. I've heard arguments that make sense on both sides. I don't really know the solution. But what's interesting to me is I just think that blue-pilled men are always going to end up in these situations because they don't understand female nature. They don't understand it. So now Brett Cooper is now coming out and she is saying, go back to Israel. She's saying, I'm pro-Israel now. Yes, I didn't want to talk about these issues before, conveniently, when I was making money. But now, and it's interesting because women always do this when they marry. And it's because now their husband, they always, they have a tendency to go be all free speech absolutists and cross the line. How do I put it? They're both willing to risk their whole platform for this issue only when they have husbands to bail them out and pay for it. Whereas the men that represented these issues, they tend to lose everything and be willing to lose everything for these ideas. So I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I don't know when it comes to that topic the best way to go about it. I know nothing about war, but I actually think no women know anything about war. So it kind of confuses me when we have strong opinions on war, because what do you know about violence as a woman? Again, it's interesting because I always look at this from a red pill perspective. And again, what happens is simps elevate women. They put them in positions we don't deserve to be in. The women get these big egos. They think they deserve to be in these positions. And then at the end, what they do is they tend to crash out on the simps and then follow the alphas. And right now, I think Nick F is winning this war in terms of charisma and popularity, and that's who women like. So, anyways, when you think about it, to some extent, since women are the voting population, if you don't know how to be good with women, you're cooked. Because Ben Shapiro has been doing this longer than Nick F, but Nick F's a little more charming and he's winning this war. Anyways, guys, I'm sure the facts are on his side too, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.